Hello and welcome to CVR News Network. You're watching CVR English and this is World 360 and I'm Sandeep. President Donald Trump had an annual physical on Friday and concluded, "I think I did well," while noting medical reports from White House doctors may not be ready until the weekend. Trump also spoke to reporters during the Air Force One flight to Florida about the tariffs and the Iran talks.
Every test you can imagine. I was there for a long time. The yearly physical. I think I did well. I think they're releasing the report on Sunday. A lot of countries. And ultimately, we pretty much can do what we want to do, but we want to be fair. We can set the tariff. And they can choose not to deal with us, or they can choose to pay it. And that's where we are. We can set the tariff, or we can do it a number of different ways, but that seems to be appropriate. And they can pay it or negotiate it, or they can not pay it. They can just say we can't do business with them. If they think it's too high, they don't have to do business with us. Honestly, I'm very comfortable now, but I've always gotten along well with President Xi. We had a good relationship, very good. And I think something positive is going to come out of that. We're the currency of choice. We're always going to be, as long as you have somebody smart. And you know what? If a nation said we're not going to be on the dollar, I would tell you that within about one phone call, they would be back on the dollar. You always have to keep the dollar. No, the dollar is, I think when people understand what we're doing, I think the dollar will go way up. I'm not talking about you're talking about the value of the dollar, which is what I'm talking about too. I think the dollar is tremendous. It's going to be stronger than ever. I have great respect for the Supreme Court. So I'm not I'm not totally well versed as to the specific case, but if they said to bring it back, I would tell them to bring it back. But I want Iran to be a wonderful.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Friday addressed members of the Ramstein meeting on Brussels via video link, urging for strengthening of air defense of Ukraine. He also said Ukrainian soldiers had captured the first Chinese citizens fighting on the front.
You know that Ukraine has a shortage of air defense systems. You know that Patriot systems can effectively protect against ballistic threats. You also know that we are forced to move the systems we have around the country to give at least temporary protection to different cities. And you know what happens when even one system goes out of service. It means lost lives. In Russia, they see this as their advantage, their ability to be a terrorist state. And we must take away that ability, their belief that killing can be treated lightly. I ask you to focus first of all on air defense for Ukraine. Last week, our soldiers captured the first Chinese citizens fighting on the front, fighting for Russia. As of now, we have information that at least several hundred Chinese nationals are fighting as part of Russia's occupation forces. This means Russia is clearly trying to prolong the war, even by using Chinese lives. Putin was not satisfied with soldiers from North Korea. Now he's trying to cover his shortages by pulling in yet another nation, the Chinese. How long can he keep doing this? We must work together to make such questions not about Moscow's choices, but about our joint pressure. You know that Ukraine.
Mexico will make an immediate water delivery to Texas farmers in an effort to address its shortfall under a decades-old water treaty that has drawn tariff threats from Donald Trump. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum announced on Friday.
Es viernes. Buenos días. A los agricultores de Texas, que son quienes están pidiendo el agua, pues va a haber una entrega inmediata de un número determinado de millones de metros cúbicos que se puede dar de acuerdo con la disponibilidad de agua que existe en el Bravo.
Ya no se puede a lo mejor garantizar la misma cantidad de agua que hace 80 años. ¿Qué opina de eso?
Lo que está buscando son propuestas técnicas que permitan que ese tratado se cumpla, porque lo que ha pasado es que hay menos agua en el río Bravo, sobre todo pues que llevamos casi 4 años de sequía, entonces pues hay menos agua. Y el objetivo pues es que permanezcan, que se promuevan y también si lo desean. Yo creo que en estos días se va a llegar a un acuerdo razonable. No veo que vaya a ser un tema de conflicto.
Muchas gracias, Presidenta.
Es bien.
Columbia University graduate student Muhammad Khalil can be kicked out of the U.S. as immigration judge in Louisiana found Friday during a hearing over the legality of the deporting the activist who participated in pro-Palestinian demonstrations.
Today, an immigration judge ruled that Mahmoud can be removed from this country. A decision as unjust as it is alarming. Despite the government's failure to prove that Mahmoud broke any law, the court has decided that lawful permanent residents can have their status revoked for pro-Palestine advocacy. This is a blatant violation of the First Amendment and a dangerous precedent for anyone who believes in free speech and political expression.
I'll remind us today that Mahmoud Khalil is not just a name on a case. He's a loving husband, a soon-to-be father, and now a political prisoner in front of a kangaroo court.
But this decision should not pacify you, it should embolden and encourage you. Those who know Mahmoud know him for his fierce commitment to justice and his refusal to back down from even the steepest of challenges. It is Mahmoud's fighting spirit that we must embrace in the following days. Today, an immigration judge ruled that Mahmoud can be removed from this country. A decision as unjust as it is alarming. Despite the government's failure to prove that Mahmoud broke any law, the court has decided that lawful permanent residents can have their status revoked for pro-Palestine advocacy. This is a blatant violation of the First Amendment and a dangerous precedent for anyone who believes in free speech and political expression.
I'll remind us today that Mahmoud Khalil is not just a name on a case. He's a loving husband, a soon-to-be father, and now a political prisoner in front of a kangaroo court.
But this decision should not pacify you, it should embolden and encourage you. Those who know Mahmoud know him for his fierce commitment to justice and his refusal to back down from even the steepest of challenges. It is Mahmoud's fighting spirit that we must embrace in the following days. Today,
Voters in Gabon are heading to the polls in the capital Libreville to cast their ballots in presidential elections. Transition head General Brice Oligui Nguema is widely expected to win the top post. As the oil-rich country's first elected leader since a military coup in 2023 brought him to power and ended the 55-year-old of the Bongo family.
L'électeur termine de l'autre côté. Ici, vous remettez.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt tells reporters the high-stakes talks between the United States and Iran on Saturday on Tehran's nuclear program will be direct talks with the Iranians.
Comfortable with the arrangement there, and what is the chief objective?
Well, I have spoken to both the president and also his national security team who will be engaged in these discussions. These will be direct talks with the Iranians, and I want to make that very clear. I also spoke to the president just last night about his goal when it comes to Iran, and he has reiterated repeatedly to all of you publicly and also privately to his team here at the White House, his ultimate goal and the ultimate objective is to ensure that Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon. The president believes in diplomacy, direct talks, talking directly in the same room in order to achieve that goal. But he's made it very clear to the Iranians, and his national security team will as well, that all options are on the table, and Iran has a choice to make. You can agree to President Trump's demand, or there will be all hell to pay. And that's how the president feels. He feels very strongly about it.
And can you update us on Mr. Witkoff in Russia and what's happening with direct communications with Vladimir Putin?
I can confirm that Mr. Witkoff is in Russia to have direct communications with the Kremlin and with Vladimir Putin. This is another step in the negotiating process towards a ceasefire and an ultimate peace deal in Russia and Ukraine. As these negotiations are ongoing, I obviously will not get ahead of the president or his team, but I think the president has been quite clear that he's been continually frustrated with both sides of this conflict, and he wants to see this fighting end. He wants the war to end. We believe we have leverage in negotiating a deal, to a peace deal, and we're going to use that leverage, and the president is determined to see this through.
Thank you. Sure. Thanks, Caroline. President Trump has said China wants to make a deal on tariffs. The president says he has a great relationship with Chinese President Xi. He's willing to speak with him directly. Why doesn't the president just pick up the phone and get this ball going?
All of the things the president just said are true. The president, as I said from the podium just a few days ago when I was up here, would be gracious if China intends to make a deal with the United States. If China continues to retaliate, it's not good for China. The United States of America is the strongest, best economy in the world, as evidenced by the more than 75 countries who have called the administration immediately to cut good deals. So the president wants to do what's right for the American people. He wants to see fair trade practices around the globe, and that's his intention and his goal.
So is he waiting for China to make the first move here?
I'm not going to comment on communications that are happening or may not be happening, or either way. We'll leave it to our national security team to get these discussions underway. And as always, in the effort of transparency, we will provide updates moving forward. But the president has made it very clear he's open to a deal with China.
Why is he optimistic that China's going to make a deal or wants to make a deal? If they're not talking, where's that optimism come from?
He's optimistic.
Hey, why would any of our allies work with us to isolate China in a trade war if we're treating friend and foe alike?
You'll have to talk to our allies who are reaching out to us. The phones are ringing off of the hooks. They've made it very clear they need the United States of America. They need our markets. They need our consumer base. You saw Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the Oval Office with the president saying that he was going to bring down all of their monetary tariffs and their non-monetary tariff trade barriers as well. We've heard from South Korea. We've heard from Japan. The president has spoken to Vietnam. We have Italy coming to the White House next week. There's a reason for that, Sean, and it's because they need the United States of America and our business model and our markets to survive, and the president is using that leverage to our advantage. Michael.
Hey, thank you, Caroline. Two-part question on China. Beijing says it will simply ignore any further tariff escalations from the U.S. Does President Trump see this as China backing down? And as a follow-up to that, what do you say to people like Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary who say, you guys simply haven't tariffed China enough?
Look, the tariff rate on China remains where it was yesterday.
Ukrainian lawmakers are almost certain to extend martial law again before it expires on May 9th, the parliamentary speaker has said. Speaking at Parliament, Russian Stefanchuk noted legal implausibility of holding free elections in Ukraine at the moment, as it is still part occupied under constant attack from Russia.
Здається, що український парламент підтримує і в черговий раз і продовження воєнного стану, і продовження мобілізації в Україні, тому що, ще раз кажу, війна не завершена. Війна триває, тому держава має дбати на національну безпеку, яка є. А щоб ці вибори, вони дали можливість усьому світу сказати, так, поствоєнна Україна, яка перемогла у цій війні, провела демократичні вибори, які визнає увесь світ. Оце для мене є пріоритетом, тому що Україна завжди була історично, є зараз і залишатиметься демократичною країною з верховенством права, з повагою один до одного. І це, мені здається, те, що якісно відрізняє нас від Російської Федерації, від цього окупанта. І взагалі в цьому питанні ми знаходимося з ними на двох берегах цивілізаційної прірви. І Виборчий кодекс закону України про правовий режим воєнного стану чітко говорять, що під час воєнного стану жодних виборів в Україні проводитися не буде. Але вибори будуть проводитись по завершенню воєнного стану. І тоді це питання також стає перед українським парламентом, тому що такого варіанту виборів Україна ще не знала. Це буде відповідний закон про так звані повоєнні вибори. І там буде дуже багато нюансів прописано, як відбуваються ці вибори, в якій черговості, які особливості формування списків. Але зараз поки це тільки результат якихось внутрішніх теоретичних дискусій. Дивіться, ми обговорюємо це питання, тому що навіть з теоретичної точки зору одночасно провести всі вибори нереально. Тому що, як мінімум, президентські, вони можуть проходити в 2 строки. Нам треба обов'язково врахувати безпекові нюанси, тому що навіть якщо все буде вирішено, я не думаю, що Росія буде сидіти, склавши руки, а для того, щоб в нас все вдалося, ми могли провести чесні, об'єктивні демократичні вибори. Безперечно, основна проблема – це Російська Федерація. В Україні давно би відбулися нормальні демократичні вибори, якби не Російська Федерація, якби не Путін і якби не розпочата війна. І це найбільша проблема, яку нам треба вирішити.
China, which attracts the world's attention with its glass bridges and huge structures, has once again performed an engineering miracle. It has built a 2-mile-long bridge over a huge valley. The structure, which is taller than Eiffel Tower, will be the tallest bridge in the world. Officials there say that with the construction of this bridge, an hour-long journey can be completed in a minute. The Huaozhong Grand Canyon Bridge was built at an altitude of 2050 feet on the Baipan River in the Guizhou region. Its construction began in 2022. It was completed in just 3 years. Officials said that $280 million were spent on this project. It was built 200 meters higher than the Eiffel Tower and weighs 3 times as much. The bridge will be opened in June this year. Until now, it took an hour to travel around the valley and reach the side. Officials have revealed that now you can cross the bridge in just a minute. They are confident that this bridge will become a transportation facility for rural areas as well as a tourist destination. There are many huge bridge structures in China. Statistics show that almost half of the 100 tallest bridges in the world are in this country. Russia launched a large drone attack overnight into a Saturday, which damaged several buildings in Ukraine's capital, Kiev. Kiev Mayor Vitaly Klitschko said drones hit a private house and a non-residential building, injuring at least 3 people.
我那个是9点过那些去的。我那个是9点过那些去的。
In a development that has sent shockwaves through local politics in New Jersey, a municipal councillor has been charged in a connection with a large-scale mafia-run gambling operation. New Jersey Attorney General Matthew Platkin announced the charges on Friday, detailing the arrests of 39 individuals following a series of raids across the states. Among those charged is Anand Shah, 42, a municipal councillor serving his second term in Prospect Park, a suburb of New York City. Shah held significant responsibilities within the council, overseeing finance, economic development and insurance. Attorney General Plankton stated that the charges against Shah and other 38 individuals include racketeering, gambling offences, money laundering and other crimes. The charges stem from raids conducted at 12 locations throughout New Jersey, including 4 alleged poker clubs used in the illicit operation. Also implicated in the alleged gambling ring is another individual of Indian descent, 48-year-old Sameer S. Nandkarni from Longwood. Authorities have identified Nandkarni as a sportsbook sub-agent poker host within the operation. The arrest of a sitting elected officials on such serious charges is likely to raise significant questions within the Prospect Park community and beyond. Details regarding the specific allegations against the councillor Shah remain limited as this time as the legal process unfolds. Parties at the UN's International Maritime Organization have agreed to the world's first ever carbon pricing mechanism or a carbon tax on global shipping. On Friday, countries including India, Brazil and China voted during the closed plenary to adopt a global framework that will put carbon price on shipping emissions that will also help the industry decarbonize and encourage the use of cleaner technologies. India was represented by Shipping Ministry. The tax is expected to be formally adopted in October 2025. Though several technical details need to be worked out. The tax will generate $30 to $40 billion in revenues by 2030, roughly $10 billion annually. The agreement is projected to deliver at the best 10% absolute emissions reduction in the shipping sector by 2030, far short of IMO's own targets set in their 2023 revised strategy, which calls for at least 20% cut by 2030 with a stench of 30% assessment set. Starting in 2028, ships will be required either to transportation to lower carbon fuel mixes or pay for the excess emissions they generate. The vessels that continue to burn conventional fossil fuels will face $380 per ton fee on the most intensive portion of their emissions and $100 million per ton on remaining emissions above the certain threshold. Starting in 2028, ships will be required either to transition to lower carbon fuel mixes or pay for the excess emissions they generate. Vessels that continue to burn conventional fossil fuels will face $380 per ton fee on the most intensive portion of their emissions and $100 per ton on remaining emissions above a certain threshold. Shopkeepers cheer for smartphone bans in Jakarta after Apple's latest smartphone went on sale following a month-long ban in Indonesia. The marketing and the sale of iPhone 16 models was prohibited by the government in October over Apple's failure to meet regulation requirement that 40% of the smartphone components be made from local parts. Apple has agreed to invest $150 million in building two facilities in the country, one in Bandung in West Java province to produce accessories and another in Batam for aid tax. US tourism is bound to be dramatically affected as international travelers are having second thoughts about visiting the country, as tensions surrounding border security and endless stream of visa revocations grow amid Trump's administration's ongoing immigration crackdown. The number of European visitors with US travel plans has especially taken a hit. According to the International Trade Administration, travels from Western Europe previously stayed at least one night in the United States, as quoted by the Financial Times. However, these numbers compared to yesterday plummeted 17% in March. Homeland Security Secretary Christine Noem, speaking at the Border Security Expo in Phoenix, urged stronger private sector involvement in securing the US border. She unveiled plans for high-tech tools like biometrics and DNA testing, placed a new deportation app developed with Elon Musk team, and joined ICE in Phoenix raids. Noem emphasized the human toll of illegal immigration and called for the urgent innovative solutions. And that's the end of the World 360. Stay tuned to CVR News English.